Good evening, I'm Geraldo Rivera, and this is a Fox News special report. Elvis at 80.
Good evening. Sad tidings tonight. Elvis Presley, late of Tupelo, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee, Las Vegas, and Beverly Hills, died today. He was only 42 years old, but while he lived, he revolutionized the music business, and in one way or another, he touched most of our lives.
We just love him. Just love him, that's all. He's got to be watching this. He's got to be so happy.
Elvis Presley, he was an idol to millions of us growing up in the 1950s and 60s. Sexy, exciting, even a little dangerous. Elvis didn't invent rock and roll, but he certainly made it mainstream. And his death shocked the world. The working class hero, the hillbilly cat, was dead at just 42 years old. And many still wonder how and why he died in the bathroom of his dream house here in Memphis, Tennessee. Well, over the course of the next hour, you'll get fresh insights from insiders and experts on the death, but more importantly, on the life and times of the extraordinary man from Graceland.
Love me tender, love me sweet.
On the day of Elvis's death, August 16, 1977, he is the fading king of rock and roll. His records and movies are not selling the way they used to, and he supports his lavish lifestyle and vast entourage with concerts. Lots of them. Scheduled to fly out of Memphis on the Lisa Marie, his Convair 880 jet the next day. Elvis is heading to Portland, Maine, for what would have been his 56th live show of the year.
We returned back to Graceland at about 1:30, and Elvis and I went upstairs, and Elvis turned on the television in his room to relax for a little while.
Live-in girlfriend Ginger Roldan is the last person to see Elvis alive. Ricky Stanley is Elvis's stepbrother.
At about 6:30, Elvis called downstairs for Ricky Stanley to bring up his packet of medication to help him get to sleep, because he was so nervous he was always kind of keyed up before starting a tour. Ricky brought it up. Elvis took his packet of medication and started reading a book on psychic energy then. He thought that would help him fall asleep. Then I fell asleep. So at about 8 o'clock, I woke up because Elvis was restless, saying that he just couldn't sleep. So he called downstairs for Ricky again, and Ricky came up and brought up another packet of medication.
A second packet.
Right. Elvis took that, and then I went back to sleep.
Elvis spends the entire morning inside his dressing room at Graceland, and it's there that Ginger finally discovers him.
I went in and I knocked on the door and no one answered. So I opened the door, and that was when I saw Elvis.
Panicked members of his entourage try frantically to revive Elvis, but he is long gone before they even get his body to Baptist Memorial Hospital, where his death is pronounced at 3:30 in the afternoon by then medical examiner Jerry Francisco, one of the prime architects of what I long ago labeled the Elvis cover-up, the conspiracy to hide the king's drug abuse and overdose death from his millions of heartbroken fans.
Results of the autopsy are that the cause of death is a cardiac arrhythmia due to undetermined causes.
Everybody should be told the truth. I've been thinking about that. I hope and pray that he didn't do it on purpose.
Bored and worried about money near the end, Elvis is no longer the slim, swivel-hipped sex symbol who changed the world. Fat and 40 gloat the tabloid headlines. Strained and swollen, he's also deeply troubled by a tell-all book describing, among other things, his drug abuse, about to be published by his ex-bodyguard.
Did that book by Sonny and Red West, the bodyguards, kill him?
This is very hard, Geraldo, because those guys are like brothers. We lived together, and did it hurt him? Did it contribute? As hard as I hate to say this, yes.
In exclusive interviews that were explosive back in the day, Ginger claims not to know Elvis was hooked on a plethora of powerful drugs prescribed by a stable of feel-good doctors and dispensed by members of his entourage, including this stepbrother, David Stanley.
Listen to me, David. This is very important. You personally witnessed Elvis Presley abusing drugs on many, many occasions, almost daily.
3 times a week. I'd work a day, Ricky'd work a day, 2 other guys would work. So that's about 2 to 3 times a week.
But every time you were on duty?
Every time.
Every single time?
Every day. Every day. Last 2 years of Elvis's life, it was every day.
The actual cause of Elvis's death, according to many unbiased experts, was an overdose of codeine and Quaaludes combined with at least 5 other depressants already in Elvis's system. Memphis DJ George Klein knew Elvis since childhood. Elvis was his best man, and George recalls getting to Graceland after hearing the awful news.
I get to Graceland, the gate swung open, and Mr. Presley runs up to me. He said, George, he said, I've lost my son, you've lost your best friend. And about that time, Dr. Nick walks in, and he says, would you please gather around me, folks? He said, hate to tell you this, but Elvis Presley passed away this afternoon at Baptist Hospital. It's very sad, and, you know, you just couldn't believe it, you know. This guy was such a superstar and had the whole world in the palm of his hands.
Did his entourage, including you, George, did you hesitate to tell Elvis that maybe this or that was inappropriate, or maybe he should take better care of himself?
A couple of Elvis's guys did. Elvis thought, Geraldo, it was prescribed medication. He thought because it came from doctors and it was a doctor's pill, it wasn't bought off the street, that it wouldn't hurt him. But lo and behold, it did, and you know what happened.
Why didn't anyone tell Elvis to stop or to slow down?
Well, you know, I'm really glad you asked that. First of all, Elvis was a real proud human being, and he thought his job was to help everybody else. Very hard for him to take any help.
Why didn't you stop him?
I tried on different occasions to stop Elvis when I saw him take something that I thought he shouldn't be taking, or taking too much of something. And on the different times he would say, I don't understand. That he would say, I need it, which I don't understand.
What would Elvis do if he didn't get the drugs he wanted?
He'd get upset sometimes. We were in Vegas one time, and like we were there for like 8 weeks, you know, and Elvis was getting his drugs, but it got to a point to where his doctor wanted to shut him off in Vegas. And we couldn't reach the doctor anymore. So he jumped up on the table one day and he pulled out his .45 and he says, I'll buy a goddamn drugstore if I have to. He says, I'm going to get what I want. He says, you people better realize that either you're with me or against me.
He's speaking about Elvis at the end. When we come back, how Elvis became the world's first rock star, as Elvis at 80 continues after this.